This is the sequence of the Endgame series, and from now on, we are going to start the Endgame series for intermediate and advanced players. I have mixed this because the stuff is too complex that you can't segregate intermediate and advanced endgames from each other, but you can segregate the expert level endgames. We have a position over here where we have these two connected pawns on fourth rank and a pawn on sixth rank, and king is just in front of our king. At present, it is our move, and we have to move. Sorry, and we have to move. And in this position, black has the opposition. The point over here is that instead of doing useless calculations and useless calculation of moves, we are just going to understand the position. I told you that in the previous videos that when this king and we have a pawn and our opponent king is opposing us, has the opposition, then we should must have a tempo move, and here we have a tempo move, and the tempo move is that e5. After that, it would be black's movement wherever it moves. For example, he moves to over here, it is the best care for him. We are going to outflank our opponent. The second rule will come, which we have already studied, outflanking our opponent. In this position, we are going to use two rules. First, we are going to use our tempo move and asking black that you had the opposition, but you do not have now. So you have to move your king. And the best care for him is he is going to move to b7. And then we are going to outflank our king by moving away and countering from the center. Let's continue with our game. e5, king b7, king d6, outflanking our opponent. King b8. Now we have the control of this square, and we are going to also get the opposition. Third thing, see that the basic end games comes over here. All the basic knowledge is going to be applied into intermediate, advanced, expert, and master level end games. First, we have we saw that the black has the opposition. We used our tempo move. a5, king had to move. Then we start outflanking our opponent. King goes to b8. Now we are going to get the opposition. After king a7, now we had the opposition. King has to move, and when king moves to e8, then king b6. After that, these pawns and these pawns are going forward. After king b8, king into a6. King goes to c8. We are going to play the moves b5. King b8. We are going to play the move b6. King comes to c8. Now we are going to take control immediately. I told you in the basic end games that we are, if the pawn is on sixth rank, your king must be controlling these squares. At least five of them or four of them. King had to move. Now the pawn moves. King moves. Now the pawn queen. I hope you have understood that instead of doing useless calculations, we are just going to use our knowledge of basic endgames over here. Here black has the opposition, but we have a tempo move. We go with our tempo move, and when the king moves to protect this pawn on a6, we are going to outflank the king, outflank the black king. King goes over here. Now we have this control of this square, c6. King comes over here. Now we have the opposition. King has to move, and now We are going to cover this, and these pawns are going to queen. I hope you have understood this position. We move to our next chapter, and that one is fight of an opposition. And this position is basically a draw, because here it is a black move. I'm going to flip the board to let you people better understand, because here it is a black move and he will get the opposition, and the white king would not be able to outflank, and he will not be have the this tempo move. To draw this position, we are going to use our tempo moves to get the opposition. We're not immediately go for useless tries like this. Now you are using, because this here white has the opposition. So we go back over here, waiting for the king to move. King gives the tempo move, that is h4, for example. Now king f5. If king comes here, no problem. King goes for e5. And also you remember the rule that if there is a pawn on each file, then this king can tuck away over here and goes for stalemate. So if g4 over here, h into g4 check, king into g4, and now we goes back. King comes over here, and now is go back. And here white could do nothing. But if here after king g6, white tries for king f3, now you immediately get the opposition. And still here, if he tries here, for example, the move which we have seen, that h4, king goes over here. White has to move. If he moves like this, no problem. I'm going to move like this. So instead of it, if he goes for a tricky move, like he goes for, after king g6, he goes for king f2, then you're going to take the distinct opposition by moving f6. This is a distinct opposition. King goes for e2, you goes for e6. For example, king goes over here, d2, you have to go for over here in d6. What happens if this pawn now called for? The problem is that after h into g4 and h into g4, now king e6, you are going to get the opposition. After king e3, you are still going to king f6. Here, after king f4, now king g6. This king can't move over here. The reason behind is that this pawn is in his way. So in this position, for example, the last position we looked, and in this position, I am going to flip the board to let you people understand from the white side. If it is white's move, then white wins. But it is black's move and he draws. The reason behind is that he goes for a maneuver and gets the opposition. So I hope you have understood this technique also, that where we apply different types of techniques in one position. We're going to study a method, it is a name actually. This is called tribujit. And tribujit is a position where whoever moves loses. Here white has to move and he loses the pawn. The reason behind is that if he moves over here, then the king takes the pawn. And for example, if it is black's move over here, he goes for king c3 and king into d5. This rule will come in our incoming games. I will explain that in detail from the this rule from real life examples. But for time being, you understand that this is called a three-budget rule. Here, whoever moves, he loses. The next chapter is about this is called a barrier. All the black pawns are stopping the squares for the king to get enter into the black's position. And white is also controlling the squares, critical squares for the black king to enter into the position. But black can continue from here, and white has to stop him from here. So what is the move here? I want you people to pause the video and think. It is an example of a getting distinct opposition by maneuvering your pieces. The straightforward moves loses. And here it is black's move actually. I'm going to flip the board for you people. Here it is a black's move. Kindly pause the video and think for it. That part is the best move you are going to do for it. I hope you have understood that, for example, if we go for king b6 directly over here, it is still a draw. The reason behind is that king goes over here. After king a5, king b3, and there is no way that black can make progress. Even still, we go for over here king b7, then king c3. We go for king a6, then b3. If we comes over here king e6, then king a4, and this is a draw. Even this king is two moves away, and this king is two moves away. But is a draw. The reason behind is that these squares are all covered by white, and there is no way that black can enter the position, although he is an extra pawn. You can understand the liability of these double pawns now. If this pawn would be on this square, then it would be a win for black. So here is the real game example. White is far away from his pawn, white king. Black king is nearer to this pawn, and he is saying that I am going to capture it. I want you people to think and clearly, and instead of doing useless, countless moves, kindly think that the knowledge you had in the previous videos, by which I delivered the lectures about basic end games, whether it could be applied over here or not. Here it is white's move. Okay, I hope you have that understood that here we are going to get the distinct opposition. King e1, king d4, king d2, king c4, king c2, king goes for example, he if white gives a tempo move here over here b6, we go for king b2. b5, king goes for c2. The reason behind is that black can't do the triangulation over here because this square has been covered by the white pawn on a3, and this is a draw. Once again, what we are going to do is that we are going to get immediately the distinct opposition in this position. If it is white's move, if it is a black's move, then it is a win because black has a tempo. But it is white's move, and he can draw this position by getting the distinct opposition, king e1. You can also try for king e2, because after king b4 you still gets the opposition. If here black gives tempo move b5, you still goes for over here. King goes for over here, and you goes for over here. And king can't come over here because this square is covered by this pawn. Let's see if what happens if black has a move over here. The reason behind is that when if the black has this move over here, he would have a tempo move with him. He goes for king d4, king e2, now king to c4. Black tries a4 over here, for example. King b4, king tries to get the opposition by playing the move first a5, but still in vain, because after king into a5, king tries to move to forward king d2, king a4, king c2, and over here king a3. If king comes over here, now black has these tempo moves, two tempo moves, and white had to move. Now if b5, kings try to tuck away in this corner, king b3, king b8. After this pawn move, sorry, my knight is disturbing me also. White has to move, and black has this opposition. King moves to c1 and king a7, and this pawn is going to win. I hope you also understand that if it is white's move, then he can draw by getting the distinct opposition in this position. But if it is black's move, he has the tempo move. Now we come to another position. Here, white is going to queen this pawn over here, and black is going to queen this pawn over here. Now I want you people understand. I told you about a square rule. The square rule was that is squares in which the pawn is going to queen, and including the square where the pawn is present. Now we are going to draw a line over here. And in this position, white can just draw this game. If white tries, for example, this move, sorry, it is black's turn, sorry, white's turn. If white gets the move for white is he's going to first oppose the king. This pawn is going to be captured. The reason behind is that it is in the square. King is in the square of the pawn. b4, sorry, I had made a mistake. This pawn is moving this side, and this pawn is moving this side. And the thing you people are going to think about is that you are going to think of a square rule. This pawn has the square at present, and you are going to capture this pawn by getting into this square. If you place the move, for example, this immediately, then the problem is that this king will capture it, and your king is very far away. And to do that, in order to draw this position, the knowledge of basic endgames come into mind, and that is that if I, for example, goes over here opposing this king instead of moving this pawn, and this king captures this pawn, then I am going to play this move king to d4, and I am in the square of the pawn. So now you understand that how the basic endgames knowledge comes into use in this advanced or intermediate endgames. Now the main move over here is that king e6. We are going to use our knowledge that we are going to go into the square. And now we are going to support this pawn also. So black had to take, and after that king d4, and we are in this, our king is in this pawn square. We are going to capture it. After this move, king over here, king into pawn. For example, after this move, king e6, if black immediately tries for b5, sorry, b4, then this pawn f4. In 3 moves it is going to pawn, it is 3 moves it is going to queen. And they are going to queen at same time, and it would be a draw. So remember these types of positions, we are going to use our basic endgame knowledge. We can draw a endgame which seems a completely lost if we have worked on our basic endgames in the endgame. Why does not we play the move king d6? The reason behind is that after d4, and we are king over here on d6 is doing nothing because this pawn is not protected, and we can't go into this square, pawn square. So we are going to play the move king e6, going to protect this pawn, and if king takes, then we are going to come into this pawn square capture. I hope you have understood this topic also. So we move to our next topic. Here this is a advanced level endgame, and here we are going to do some type of calculations. But before that, we are going to understand the concept pressure. White has a pressure over here, and the second thing we are going to understand is the weak squares in black's position. Black's weak squares position are e5, h6. These are the two main weak squares in black's position. This is also a weak square. This is also a weak square, but this cannot be immediately countered. But these squares can be immediately countered. And the first thing we are going to do in this position, instead of calculating, we are going to go with a plan. I want you people to pause the video and think over it, that what should be the plan over here. I hope you have understood that first we are going to make the king go back to these squares. Pressurize the king to go back to these squares. This is our first part of plan. The second is we are going to get hold of this weak square h6 in the position. This is the second plan. The third is this pawn and this pawn. We can go for a breakthrough by playing the move like d5 over here. And black can't take it because after this pawn, take pawn, we are going to have an advantage of our pawns on these 4th and 5th rank advanced positions. Because if he takes and pawn takes, then we have these two pawns against this one pawn, and after this pawn moves, the position is completely one for white. First, we are going to first part of the plan, that we are going to build the pressure and make the king go away to backside of this case. For example, that when we go for this break in the center, we would be controlling this pawn, and in this position we are also going to calculate that in how many moves our pawn could, this pawn, white pawn could queen. Now let's go over with our plan. King g4, and king has to go back. If he tries, for example, a move like this, e6, then we are going to play this move king f4, because it is a blunder, it is a mistake for black, because wherever he moves now, for example, he moves to e7 over here, then we immediately goes over here, and black can't do anything now in the center. So the standard move over here after king g4, he can't get the opposition, he has to go back, he goes to king f7. Now king g5, now we have this control of this h6 game, the weak game. Black king tries to counter us with the move king g7. Now what to do? We achieved our plan. We made the king go back far away. We calculated that in 4 moves where our pawn with queen. So if we break in the center, black does not take it and black tries to come to the center, we would be fast enough to win our pawn first. From here, we first thing was to build a pressure by using the rule which we discussed in the basic endgame, that was the opposition. We go for king g4. Black can't counter us by the opposition, he goes back. We takes control of this g5, the weak square h6. King has to control this square h6, and we are going to make the black king to vacate the security of this king square h6. So we hit in the center by playing the move d5. As black can't take this, because after this, these two pawns and this pawn after this pawn move, it is a win for white. So king has to move. King moves to f7 and now king h6, and we have now control of this square, h square. The only thing is remained now in the third part of the plan is that to make the king move from the security of this pawn e6. And I want you people to pause the video and think that how we can make the black king do this. I hope you have understood that we can make the black king to go away from the security of this g6 pawn by using this pawn e4 as a decoy. For after king f6, e5 check, king into e5 and king into g6. Now our calculations comes immediately is fruitful that in 4 moves we are going to queen, and black needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves, and we can capture this one. King e5 and hold the position with the 3 pawns, and we go with our plan h5. Black goes with e5, we go for h6, e4, h7, king c4, queen. That goes with our d4, sorry, d5. And we can stop these pawns. The queen can stop these pawns if they are on 4th rank and back on, even back. If even they are on 6th, queen can stop them. I would let you people understand this concept that how queen can stop the pawns even if they are on 6th rank in the next video or in the upcoming video which I would make. So queen c3 check, king has to go back, king goes back over here, king b5 for example. Now we are going to bring the king, king f5, e, if for example e3, now king moves to e6, hitting the pawn from the back, pawn d4 and queen b3 check, king has to move back, and now we control the square, this square, queen a4 check, king has to move back, and queen d7 check, king has to move over here, and now king d6. We are going to attack the king. These pawns are not going anywhere, and black is going to be checkmated in few moves. For example, d3, c6 check, king a5, king into c5, and there is no way that black can escape the checkmate because after king d2, so we come over here to our main position. If these types of positions, remember that we are going to use your basic knowledge. In this, we used our basic knowledge and we made a plan by using that knowledge that we are going to build the pressure on this black king to go far away, back in the defense. First, by using the opposition move. King can't get the opposition, he goes back. Second was, we targeted this h6 big square, that we are going to hit this pawn on g6 from this h6 square. So move over king to g5, king d7, opposing us, not to going to let us have this control of this h6 square. So we hit in the center, d5. King has to move, king f7. Now we have taken control of this h6 square. There is no other move that black can move. So he has to move the king. And the best move is king f6. Now we use this pawn as a decoy because we have calculated that in after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves, we are going to queen. And he would be not fast enough to queen the pawn. So e5 check, king into e5, king into pawn, and we queen and win the game. I hope you have understood that how to make a plan in the end game by using our end game knowledge. Basic end game. So let's go to our next example. And here this is the real game example. And here we are going to win this game by white by using a three-budget which we discussed earlier. Three-budget rule. That whoever moves over here loses. For example, if it is white's move, he loses the pawn and loses the game. For example, if it is black's move, he moves over here, he loses the game. So we are going to understand this example from a real life game. And here we are going to apply two rules to get this through budget position. And first is to get maneuver, the triangulational maneuver. That one is king b3. Getting a maneuver. Because after king e4, you are going to play the move king b4. King has to move back, and now king goes over here. King a4. Now king comes over here, and now king b3, sorry, b6, and this black king has to move, and this pawn is going to, because after king c4, king into c6, king take this pawn. Now there is nothing that can stop white from winning. Let's go back again. Remember, in these types of positions are very tricky one. If you, for example, moves the king immediately to b4, then it is a draw. The reason behind is that black immediately comes here, and the three budget comes into it. If you, for example, counters it with c4, then king comes to d4. You have to vacate the security of one of these pawns, and you comes over here b3, king into pawn, and it is a draw. So remember, in the intermediate advanced level, or in the games when you play, you are going to use in the end game 2 to 3 or even 4 rules, and in proper sequence you are going to use them. So first, which one we are going to do, that we are going to use a triangulation technique to make it that when the tripujit position arises, then it would be black's move to move. After king e4, he goes also tricky, then king a4. Going from here, king comes for immediately comes over here, then king b4. The triangle has been completed in this way. Now king has to vacate the security of this pawn, and he has to go. For example, he goes to e6. You comes to a4, hitting this pawn over here. King goes for e7. He gets tricky. You goes over here, king b6. Still he is going to lose the pawn because it is three budget. Whoever moves, he loses. So I hope you have understood this position. And remember, there is another rule also, that in the double pawns, this pawn must not be advanced than this fourth rank. The second pawn, which is behind the first pawn, must not be advanced the fourth rank. Remember this rule. I hope you have understood all the concepts which has been explained in this video. I can explain a lot more, but the video is getting longer and longer. So that's why I hope you enjoyed my video. Kindly subscribe, hit the bell icon button, and like it. Thank you.